I'm Corey Benbow, and this is the Sandmo Show.
And I'm Tucker Thompson. This is the Sandmo Show.
All right. What's up, Sand Martians? Welcome back to the Sandmo Show. I'm your host with the Sandmost, Cleveland. Joining me today for a very presidential episode is Student Body President Corey Benbow and Student Body Vice President Tucker Thompson. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Good. How are you?
Thanks for having us.
So, how's the week going so far?
Week's been going. Got things to do tomorrow still, so it's not weekend yet.
Not weekend yet. When's your weekend start? Does it ever start?
Depends on how much Tucker pushes me.
It all depends. You know, classes, homework, student government keeps us busy.
So, you guys, of course, student body president and vice president. And I just want to know, as a person of the public, let's say it like this, what are some things that students can look forward to coming up this semester?
Well, I think that they can look forward to a lot of hard work. Minimal drama, I hope, but that's still yet to be determined. I also think that they can look forward to a executive office that's really working on their behalf and advocating on their behalf. And I think for some tangible things, we have a lot of things in the works. We just recently got some legislation passed for a free textbook lending program, so I think that's going to be really exciting for the students, and I'll let Tucker tell you the rest.
We've been working all summer on bringing free menstrual hygiene products to campus for a pilot program. With that, we've been working with an outside organization called AmpFlow, and what AmpFlow does is they work with businesses, different universities to try and bring free tampons and pads to bathrooms around campus, and we've had a lot of success with speaking to our facilities and custodial about bringing it on, but also individual buildings. And we're hopeful that by the end of the month, we'll have free tampons and pads in certain dispensers across buildings on campus. And we've since it is a pilot program, we had to be very specific about which bathrooms we chose to put these in. And so we picked buildings that kind of stretched across all of campus. So it gave everyone a chance to have access to them if it came down to the possibility of them having to maybe miss class or something like that. They would have a dispenser close to them. And the buildings for the pilot program that we'll have this in would be Jowers, the Commons bathroom, the Harris bathroom, McCoy, the Supple, and we've also worked with the Honors Building, Lampasas. They already have them up, and the rec already has products out as well for free. And we also are working with a few other buildings that are planning on putting their own up as well.
That's really good. So you said by the end of this month, they should all be there, hopefully,
That we're very hopeful. So the timetable right now, that was our goal. We're waiting on just the payment to go through, essentially. And with that, we'll, of course, have to wait on the shipping. And I'm not 100% positive how quick that will be. But once they're here, we're pretty positive that they will be able to be up fairly quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome, yeah. And then so the other thing we just put through for student government was textbook lending, right?
Yeah.
So how is that going to work?
Well, I think there's a lot of different components that we'll have to work out as we kind of go through it. But essentially the ideal is that textbooks will be available to students who have a need for them. Mm-hmm. And the way we'll get a supply of textbooks is through donations. So at the end of the semester, students can donate their textbooks, and then we reissue those textbooks out to other students at the next semester. And those students would then turn those books in at the end of the semester, and we'll just continue to send those textbooks out. As we get new textbooks, we'll send those textbooks out.
Okay. And where can students go to donate those books?
to the student government office.
Okay, and that's in LBJ, right?
LBJ, 4th floor.
There we go. And okay, so now for both these are pretty big programs. What was like the inspiration for, I guess, both these? Whatever order you guys want to take these in.
Well, for the free menstrual hygiene program, it's actually been a discussion going on for student government for quite a while. There was a piece of legislation written by one of my good friends, Elijah Miller, a couple of years ago. That initiative kind of got lost in the drama that ensued the next couple years. But this past semester, we had a guest speaker who brought the issue forward again, and it was kind of the end of the last administration's term. But Keely Freund, the last vice president, and we kind of teamed up to get the process started last semester and allow me, and our chief of staff has also been working very heavily with this with me, and so we've just kind of carried it through all the way till now. And so it's been incredibly successful so far, and we're hoping that once it's been implemented, we can take more steps to ensure that it's sustainable moving forward, and that it can be expanded.
Nice. Okay. And then the textbook lending program, is there like another model or like another school that we kind of base this off of, or are we kind of the first?
Well, I think the ideal is that of the University of Houston's that had a similar program. Now, this particular program came out of an executive order, and I just told the director of finance a few things, and he did kind of the footwork and legwork to see how to best implement the program here for us. And then that's how the legislation came about. So even though the idea, let's do a textbook lending library, came from the University of Houston, the nuts and bolts of the program are from work from the director of finance to see how to best implement the program here.
That's really good. Okay, now the other thing I know you guys are really excited about and just went up on Student Government's Twitter is Diversity Week, right?
Yes.
So explain to a student necessarily what Diversity Week's all about.
Well, Tucker's the most diverse in this room. I'll let him explain.
Oh no, this has been Corey's baby. He's got it.
So, I think Diversity Week is a great time for the university community to come together and kind of celebrate in a unified fashion some of the diversity that is here on our campus. And so we have a lot of pride in diversity. We're very proud of being a Hispanic serving institution in designation. But I would venture to say we're more a Hispanic enrolling institution. So that means that we're not very good at serving the population that we have. And I saw Diversity Week as a way to bring it kind of front and center, have some buy-in from the university community, and then continue to build on that momentum as we finish Diversity Week and continue to build this very diverse and inclusive campus.
Nice. Okay, and now what are some of the events that are going to be taking place during the week?
So the way Diversity Week is structured, we have committee-sponsored events, and then anybody, whether a registered student org, a department, or faculty, can participate in Diversity Week by holding a Diversity Week event. They would give us that event, and we would advertise that event as a Diversity Week event. So for some of the community-sponsored events, right now we have the kickoff that's going to take place with the keynote speaker from Houston-Tillotson HBCU. And then we have a group called Los Cafeteros that's coming in. Another gentleman by the name of Superman, which is a Native American, and he does hip-hop kind of cultural things and stuff. Then we have the Asia Project, which is spoken word. Another act that we have coming in is what is it called? Oh, Step Africa is coming in.
Yeah, I remember you talking about the Step group. That actually sounds really interesting too. And then a drag show too, right?
There'll be a drag karaoke.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Because I know I don't know how much I should talk about this, but last Valentine's Day I went.
Did you dress in drag?
I did not dress in drag. I did not. But they did do karaoke at Stonewall. I was at Stonewall.
Yes,
and I performed Ariana Grande. And not to brag, but I did come in second place.
Okay.
I got snubbed if you ask me, but whatever.
What song did you sing?
I sang. Let me see. Because there was a lot of good choices, but I had to pick a Ariana Grande song that was kind of like off the popular catalog because I had a feeling and somebody did also do another Ariana Grande song. So I did Into You by Ariana Grande. And I because at first I was really nervous and I still kind of thinking back, it was crazy that I even did that because I mean, especially growing up, I was like mortified of getting in front of crowds and stuff. And I was like, all right, I got up there. You can do like a stage name, and for whatever reason, like Mr. Rogers pops in my head.
Mr. Rogers.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Yeah, and so I got up there. And we did, Into Ariana Grande, and I was like, okay, just do what I've been doing in the bathroom mirror since like high school. I was just like, don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was people were some folks threw money at me, which I kept, but
Absolutely.
three wrinkled dollars.
You earned it.
I earned that money.
Wrinkled, sweaty dollars.
Worth every bit of it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but the drag show really does sound fun, and long shot dream at whatever point in the show, but one of the mothers, I guess, at Stonewall is Cheetah. Cheetah is one of like the mothers, I guess, for all the other drag queens, and I would love to have Cheetah on. Like, I just remember that first night. We interrupt your podcast for a special announcement. Just as Cleveland was describing to Corey and Tucker his first night at Stonewall, tragedy struck. The audio software used to record the San Mo show decided to stop working without notifying the host with the San Most. Because of this, some areas and topics had to be re-recorded for the episode. We apologize, and the San Mo show thanks you for your understanding. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Hey, so audio technical difficulties happened, and we stopped recording at 10 minutes, but we probably got a good 30-40 minutes of audio in. So just full disclosure for that, we're going to be kind of retreading some of the same points we brought up earlier in the lost episode, we'll call it. So we're back on the topic of student government activities, projects, events, and you were telling me about the river cleanup, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So let the people know about that.
Yeah, so we definitely, similar to Diversity Week, we definitely want to harp on the importance that programs have, because in the past we kind of feel like that's been underutilized in student government. And so with the programs that we wanted to do this year, we wanted to make sure that we got other student organizations involved. And so that's something with our river cleanups is I'm planning on hosting monthly river cleanups the last Sunday of each month. And each time we do this, reaching out to a number of organizations just to try and get involved with us, have that face-to-face interaction. We may get people interested in student government at the very least. There could be some dialogue about things that maybe student government could work on, but ultimately adding on to this will be kind of cleaning the river, making sure that there's no trash around the surrounding areas. I feel like the river is a big part, if not the biggest kind of personality aspect of Texas State. And so I think that is something that we as a student government should really prioritize, because that's such a big part of why people come here.
Oh, yeah. No, I love the river. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you can usually catch me down at Sewell Park. Chilling. And even when my friends come to visit or something, I'll usually take them down the walk from, from the education building down through like the kind of marsh area where you have the fountains and stuff and the bridges. I usually take them through that part of the walk, and then ultimately down to Sewell, and I'll brag about the river. I'll be like, look, this is on our campus. This is our river. Yeah. You can see the bottom of it.
Even in the entrance, it has Texas State University. Yeah. And I will say they do a fairly good job of keeping it clean, but just with kind of the railroad track down the road and that school, I think it's a school near Lions Club, there's just a lot of trash that kind of gets blown towards the river even. And so just kind of even making a conservative effort to make sure that's not happening, I think is definitely just one way that we can positively impact the river and also build relationships with other organizations.
And when's this first one going on?
We're hopeful for the last Sunday of this month. Let me see, just to make sure I don't have the date wrong. It would be Sunday the 29th, but before we start sending out invitations to organizations, we want to be sure that we have access to a dumpster and a recycling bin, because we don't want to have all these trash bags and then have nowhere to put them. Yeah. So that's just kind of one thing we're waiting on hearing, if we're allowed to use a dumpster near the area, and if we are, then we'll start hopefully this month.
Yeah, that sounds like a great thing, especially getting involved with local campuses and communities and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a really good way to even just outreach for student government itself. And I guess we'll go into the local news and local stuff like that. And I have some opinion pieces here from the University Star that I thought you guys, I'd be interested to get your takes on them. So the first one's by Laura Fiji. It says apartment construction threatens to ruin San Marcos' charm. And she writes, big box apartment complex construction will ruin the charm permeating San Marcos. The complexes, once completed, will effectively ruin the skyline, the view of Old Main, and the iconic city view of the undergraduate center arch. And she argues that luxury apartments basically make San Marcos living much more expensive, and so does the City Neighborhood Commission, which we talked about earlier before the audio crisis. And essentially what they were saying is that the rent by bedroom aspect and a lot of these apartment complexes increase the cost of living here for students, but also as well as for anybody who likes to commute to either Austin or San Antonio and chooses San Marcos because it's cheaper to live here. And I just want to see what you guys thought about that in general, because it's, especially with the growth we're experiencing, and it was going to be worth asking what you thought about potentially capping admissions for Texas State.
I think the apartment complex itself is very much an eyesore, and it does kind of take from the integrity of the university. And so I would have hoped that the university would have been able to sell to buy that land, but since they weren't able to buy it and they sold it to this developer, then they put this very horrible figure there. And so I think that that's worth noting. I would say that we talked about this earlier. But the capping of admissions, I think that it's something we have to be very strategic about, because as a university and as we would like for our endowment to grow and our programs and to receive more funding from the state, such as the levels of the University of Texas or Texas A&M, that other university, we have to continue to grow and we have to continue to add programs. But that's like a catch-22. And so you always think to yourself, well, the university has grown, but have we outpaced our infrastructure, and at what cost?
Yeah, and I think that's the good point, because it's kind of trying to maintain that balance between the city not growing too fast and us not ending up like either. Because, I mean, the two, quote-unquote top-tier schools, UT and A&M, both in city-wise, I mean, Austin and UT are always at odds with each other, because UT just wants to keep expanding into the city, and a lot of native Austonians, or but you're from Austin, right? Austinites try to draw the line at some point, but the line keeps getting pushed elsewhere because the university just has such a high demand for growth. And same thing with A&M on a much different scale, because they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But College Station, when school's not in session, the place turns into a ghost town. I mean, so does San Marcos to an extent, but I mean, College Station's huge compared to the size of the city of San Marcos. And I mean, that's one thing I do like about the charm of San Marcos, because how walkable the campus is typically. I mean, I live at Sanctuary Lofts, and I can still walk to campus, and that's really nice. And I can get to any of my classes within like 10 minutes max. Whereas, some of my friends who go to A&M, they're talking about like, oh yeah, I have to catch this bus and then get on this one to connect to to a building that is 7 or 8 miles away, in like a 15-minute period, which is rough compared to, I mean, once you're on campus, whether you take the bus or not, you can get to basically anywhere you want within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And also, I guess on the same topic, what do y'all think about the LBJ expansions?
Well, I think they work for most folks, and I think they're going to be really nice when they're finished, allowing more meeting space and more ballrooms. But I think that for me, I'm always, what did the students really get out of the money that they paid in? And I don't know if they got that much, but it still remains to see when we get these new meeting spaces, which some are open now in the ballroom, if the money was worth, if you got the bang for the buck, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing right now, I mean, I'm gonna wait until it gets done, but right now it does not look super great, because I'm still, you gotta sand off the edges.
There's still a lot.
But I mean, the thing is, it's weird because I think my first fall semester at the LBJ Student Center still looked like how it did originally, and it's still weird seeing like where it used to be and where like the new construction is. Yeah, it's kind of, because the way I've kind of compared it is the Chicago Bears, they play at Soldier Field, and that's over a 100-year-old field, and what they've just been doing is they just built around the original stadium, and they just put like concrete all around it and just made extra stands out of it. And of course, I mean, I'm not a fan of the Bears. I'm a Packers fan. So I'd argue Lambeau Field's just about as old and looks much better because they've kind of shaped how it's grown.
Yeah.
But I mean, Soldier Field, I mean, the original stadium's still there, but it's like internal to the rest of it. So it's kind of odd. So I think with a lot of growth in San Marcos, we have to pace it correctly. And we were talking about earlier, too, with the street design and the Haven, which I want to touch on briefly one more time. With them, basically with the students, what happened was where they were guaranteed a room for fall 2019. And like I said, we are now 3 weeks into the year, and the students who signed that lease, in all caps apparently on their website, say guaranteed fall 2019, still do not have anywhere to live. So they've been offered either to move in to another place like the Woods, I think, right? And
The Edge.
And they would they wait there until the housing's complete for Haven, or they move somewhere else and the Haven covers 2 months of their rent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we were talking about earlier, basically you should not be signing on to anywhere that isn't complete yet, and that's one of the first things they teach you, for the American campus community thing. Is
keep your ink to yourself. Don't
Yeah.
use their pens. Don't sign that lease.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with Aspire, because I heard it's supposed to have a Target in it at some point, like a miniature supermarket. But
They're going to have Target and Whole Foods.
Whole Foods, too.
That's what they say.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even know what the new name of the apartment complex by the Mochas and Javas.
Oh, yeah, that one, too. That's a pretty big one.
Yeah, but they were supposed to have a number of different things under their apartment complexes.
Mocha and Javas?
Yeah, what was that really tall one?
In London? That's not at Mocha's.
No. Mochas and Javas by right by the university, where Umami is,
now.
the sushi.
I know where I think the area. Can you see it from campus?
Yeah.
Like if you're staying by Centennial,
Yeah.
the big silver one, right?
Yeah, they just changed the name.
That one. I thought that was old.
Oh no, that one. It's comparatively it's fairly new, but they made a lot of promises for things that were going to be under that apartment building as well, and it's just has not come to fruition at all. And so it's just, definitely if you're going to sign the lease, it's just the best option to do it in a place that is not under construction and has been fairly established.
It just
Well,
hurts.
I think they're going to put that Target there for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, UT has just gotten a Target in the last year on their campus.
Yeah, it's this kind of similar thing. I think because what I was saying too when visiting College Station, this is kind of like a cookie cutter apartment complex. This isn't anything original. This is a design they basically just click and drop anywhere in Texas, wherever they build. And so I don't think it's anything special. It definitely takes away from the character. I agree with the piece, especially when you're standing in the square or something like that, this historic old district, and then you just have this gigantic skyrise blocking the university. 'Cause that's one of my favorite things too, is if you're driving past on 35, you just see this little university up on the hill. And I love that. And now it's just, like I said, you have this gigantic monolith, or even poor Italian garden we were talking about earlier. That little mom and pop, Italian place is now just in the shadow of this huge, bland building.
Yeah, and kind of more of what we said earlier. It was, this will be my 5th year in San Marcos, and one of the biggest things that brought me here was kind of the climate of the city, the environment, the river, obviously, and it's been sad to see it change so much. I don't want to say every addition has been bad, because there definitely has been one that I'm happy about, but just seeing all these huge apartment complexes, just a lot of things changing. I think it's representative of the increase in crime in the area as well. It's just, you can definitely feel a change in San Marcos compared to 4 or 5 years ago, where it still did have that very small town feel.
I was talking about last week, they had to call in the San Marcos SWAT on a guy 2 weeks ago now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that whole standoff was insane. But I mean, there has been a steady increase in crime in San Marcos just in general. It's not usually students. But I mean, if it does happen, it usually happens at Bobcat Village.
Yeah.
That's a weird place on campus because how detached it is, but still technically campus property, right?
Yeah, it belongs to the campus, the university.
That's a weird. That's a weird situation. But so I mean, yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to curbing growth. There's no good answer to either of it. And then one other thing we want to talk about, I guess, is the campus dining. And we before the audio went to crap. We talked about, we kind of dismissed some myths about Chartwells, right? So you want to get your piece again?
Yeah. I just wanted to. There were a couple narratives that were going around the university, and I was speaking to Chartwells about, and one of them being that the new kiosks were causing students to lose their job, and that just isn't the case. They showed me the statistics and things such as that, and the students that would have been working at a cash register would have just been moved to working the food area, so the food gets moved out quicker to those who are buying it. And the other thing was that Chartwells is actually always hiring. I spoke to them not too long ago, and they were telling me that they have applications open, and they're looking for student workers. I can't remember exactly what the narrative was surrounding that in terms of that they just weren't hiring any more students.
They're bare bones or something.
That they're bare bones, and they may be bare bones, but that's possibly because that they need workers, and they are hiring at the moment. If you go to what is that?
I mean, do you need a job?
No, it's
Okay, then.
the Bobcat site where it has the jobs open.
Jobs for cats.
Jobs for cats.
Jobs
That's
for
what
cats.
it is. There are openings on there.
That's good, yeah. And so, I mean, that was the other thing. But also, we kind of talked about Kerbey Lane going in, where Saltgrass Steakhouse is going in. And we had quite the debate about that, because I'm excited to try something else. Like I said, I'm from San Antonio. We don't have Kerbey Lanes in San Antonio. They're very much an Austin thing. As
Get
Corey was
those
talking
wheat vegan pancakes. They'll be great for you.
Yeah, they've got a good vegan option set here, right? I mean, and I don't know. I think the culture's there, because I mean, there's always kind of a joke about, you ask, how do you know somebody's vegan? And then the answer is always, they'll tell you. Because, I mean, even in class, on a completely unrelated topic, somehow a girl found a way to my philosophy class to mention that she's vegan. And it's a funny thing, but also, I mean, it's kind of at least represent that a lot of people are at least giving it a shot. I think Kerbey Lane would make it a lot easier, because, I mean, I found my freshman 15 last year, especially in the spring. I would go to Wing It most every day, get chicken strips and French fries at least twice a day. And there would be times, where I would walk out and I was like, I'm feeling good today. I drank water and I ate a vegetable for the first time this week. And so, I mean, yes, there's vegetable options, but even that is always create the one sandwich. You can get a salad. I've always, I love cooked vegetables or steamed veggies, stuff like that. And so to even have healthier options available for students is going to be great, especially with it being as close to the river. Walking right from, Sewell and go get, pancakes or waffles or something like that. That sounds great. I mean, and I think the university really did listen to the students on that, at least in terms. I mean, it's not Waffle House, as Tucker and I were kind of saying to our dismay earlier, but I mean, it is a breakfast food place.
And it's still good breakfast food.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's more of a local chain anyway. So I mean, I'm cooler with supporting that, I guess.
Yeah, and if there was a place for Kerbey Lane to try out expanding, I think San Marcos is definitely the city to be at.
I think it's a good place to stay. And then also, we were talking about earlier briefly the most controversial moment we've had on the podcast that was unaired. But President Corey Benbow is not a fan of the Whataburger.
Oh, Whataburger. I mean, just like you like it. I'm okay. I mean, I'm not. I think that. Not that I'm not a fan. I think that Whataburger does really well some things. They do patty melts really well.
We agree on that.
Breakfast, sausage, egg, cheese, biscuit, they do very well, but I don't think that they're all that in the terms of burgers. So
the impeachment's already on the way.
If I had to choose a burger, I mean, we were talking about the difference between that and In-N-Out. I mean, In-N-Out probably has the better fast, greasy, saucy burger. I'm a fan of Dan's Burgers, or Hut's used to be in Austin, but we don't have that anymore.
What happened to Dan's?
Dan's is there. Hut's isn't.
Yeah, I've been to Dan's a couple times. I do like their. I am a burger aficionado. I will say that. I really do love burgers. In-N-Out's is good too. I prefer a Whataburger patty melt because it's I guess meatier. But at the same time with the patty melt I'm a firm believer you can't go wrong with it. Also, when you get like a really like undercooked, it's like during a rush, if they just give you patty melt and like the cheese isn't melted all the way,
Or
the
they
sauce
put
isn't-
too much sauce on
Yeah,
it
or
and your
it's-
bread's a
Well, I
little
always take
soggy.
light sauce.
Yeah, it can ruin the
Easy on the
yeah.
pepper sauce
Yeah.
now.
But I will say, In-N-Out's burgers sometimes do that too, where they
Yeah.
put a little too much sauce on there and it just ruins the whole experience.
Soggy
that's-
sandwich is
That's
worth
not
it.
what you said earlier. Don't try to clean it up.
Oh no! I listen. I do prefer In-N-Out's
Okay,
burger
say what you said.
to Whataburger, but Whataburger's fries and shakes are far superior.
See, honestly, I kind of like In-N-Out's fries a little more.
What?
Yeah, honestly, I like Wendy's
Ooh,
fries a lot too.
In-N-Out fries, those are
Yeah.
cardboard fries.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
like
something weird about them.
fries. I can go either way. Depends what kind of mood I'm in. But I think In-N-Out does shakes better, personally.
Oh really?
Yeah,
They just melt too quick for me.
I
Honestly,
honestly,
because the soft serve, very soft.
Yeah.
I like their shakes.
I mean,
more,
but you can get a malt from Whataburger.
Yeah. No, I like Whataburgers.
I still don't understand what a malt. I worked at Baskin Robbins like when I was in high school, and I make malts for people. I still don't understand what the difference between like a regular shake and I know you put like a special powder in there.
I have no
But,
idea,
yeah.
but
I
I
think
think
the thickness
I
is
think
what
I like
determines
malts
Makes it
more.
thicker.
Shake or
Yeah,
malt?
yeah. Like there's like you have to like put 2 scoops
Yeah.
of the malt.
I
thing in
think
there.
I like malts more, but I don't know what the difference is.
I've
think-
made 100 of them at least, but I
Yeah.
still could not tell you what the difference is. While we try to sort out the difference between a shake and a malt, here's Candle by Commons, and we'll be right back.
You know I never meant to say those things back when I was young. It's just you never know just what you've got until it's gone. So I hope you hear me sing. I'll see you one day. Talk the hours away till the sun does rise. How could I forget the love that you had? It shines so bright. And I hope one day I'll get to see you again. And I hope one day I'll get to see you again. These dark blue skies aren't the same without you here. We've all been trying to hold on to that spark we hold dear. If only you were here, I'll see you one day. Talk the hours away till the sun does rise. How could I forget the love that you had? It shines so bright. And I hope one day I'll get to see you again. And I hope one day I'll get to see you again. And I'll never let go of the feelings that you've shown. And remember the times you were always by my side. I'll never let you down. And I hope to see you again.
All right, and we are back with Corey Benbow and Tucker Thompson with just enough time to answer some questions from our listeners. And the first one comes from Tyler Fountain. It's for Tucker. It says, what draws Tucker to the song Weak by AJR?
Oh no. Tyler's a close friend of mine, and they have slandered me because I love AJR.
I've never even heard of AJ.
I don't even know how to describe them, to be honest. But
Corey just rolled his eyes.
It probably. I mean, I don't know where Tucker pulls this mess up from, but
I'm sure you've never heard of them. I have a really weird music taste.
nobody knows more about music than me.
we're not gonna do that. But I don't know. You know, they're just.
What kind of music do they do?
I just honestly,
It's AJR?
I don't even know how to explain it, but it sounds good to me. And
That explains it.
it sounds good to me. I saw them live at a New Orleans Voodoo Fest, and they were a lot of fun. And I'm weak. While I used to listen to a lot, it has grown old, but it's still a bop. Tyler.
And then the other one's also for Tucker here. It's Brittany Bell. It says, "What's Tucker's thought on a mustache?" Because she also added that she thinks you have the face for one.
So I've tried it many times, and I just can't do it. I'm afraid it will scare away my constituents, understandably, and it's not going to happen.
My girlfriend hates mustaches, and I can grow a really nice neck beard right here, but I can't get it anywhere actually like on my face. And I've always wanted to try out a mustache. I don't think I have the face for it, but I want to at least try it.
Mustaches are by themselves.
Yeah,
are
just
not
I want like
that's,
a by
that's
itself
called
mustache.
a porn stash.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
the thickness matters, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple weekends ago, I lost a bet, and I had to go out and
Pictures.
No, I do have the picture somewhere. I had to go out in public with a mustache, and that was all the validation that I needed that it's just not going to happen ever
Getting
again.
weird looks from everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my girlfriend said she'd break up with me if I got a mustache.
Yeah, understandably.
Part of me's
It's
like,
just
honestly,
not-
you're just encouraging me to grow it more, just because.
Oh, no.
Not because I want to break up with her, just because.
We'll edit that part
I
out.
love to irritate my girlfriend. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, just rubbing.
Anytime I like see a guy with a mustache, like, I'm gonna grow a mustache. She goes, no. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it just for you. So I know how much you love it. And then the next one's from Lindsay Rogers, and it's for the both of you. And she's asking, what do you guys think about the Democratic candidates in the Democratic field? Because it's debates tonight. So what are your thoughts?
We've been talking about this.
Well,
quite
I
a
just
bit.
want to tell you the truth of the matter is, I mean, we're at a very strange time in American history, and so we have to understand that we have to choose a candidate that can beat Donald Trump, right? Mm-hmm. Politics, you know, I'm really just all around wherever the best person is. So, but I think that the move is strategic. I think there's a lot of people that are in the race that cannot beat Donald Trump. I told Tucker, I think nobody in the race can beat Donald Trump. The way this guy has shifted America is something I've never seen, and I think we're at a very scary moment in American history. But if I had to choose somebody who I think could beat him, it'd be old Sleepy Joe.
Crazy Uncle Joe? He couldn't even remember Obama's name. Let me tell you, I'm not President, my boss. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm not crazy about the candidate, right? I
Yeah.
mean, but we're at a place where we have to get these other candidates are not going to be able to do that shift. I think that he can, especially with his reaching, and Obama told him he didn't have to do it. Joe, you don't have to get in this race, and he still did it. But who else? Who are we also going to have? Crazy Bernie?
I think, but Bernie wins over a lot of Trump supporters because of a populist message. Because basically Trump says that the government's screwing us over, and it's the problem, and it's the reason for all of our issues. And then Bernie essentially says the same thing, but corporations. So both of them say like,
they both have a populist message.
Yeah, and so I think he could be the next guy, but. I don't know.
I think that the problem is that we see Bernie and we think this is somebody who should be in a nursing home.
He is very old.
He's pushing it in age for sure.
I mean, both he and
Both
Joe
are old, but when you talk about it, Trump has already run the general election. It's a lot different.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about going up against
you see already how much the office
old and older.
Yeah, and how much the office ages you.
Yeah.
Just
You think
Bernie's eating his spinach though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a great guy. I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
But I want.
I
somebody
know
who's gonna
Tucker
win.
has some differing views on the Democratic candidates. I want to hear that.
I like Corey said, I don't know with just how the climate is right now. I don't know if any of them could beat Trump, but I do disagree that I do not think Joe, if anyone could, Joe would be that guy.
Yeah.
But I do like how there's a lot of candidates that, probably don't have a chance of getting the bid, but, such as Marianne Williamson. And
She's out.
Yeah.
I
She's
know,
off. She's
but,
out.
and like Andrew Yang.
As I'm wearing an Andrew Yang t-shirt.
Yeah, I think, and
All for Yang Gang.
I love
Yang
Yang. I love Yang Gang.
Secure the bag. Yang Gang 2020.
But I think they're bringing up a lot of very important conversations, similar to kind of what Bernie did last year, where there's just a lot of important conversations that haven't really been considered before. And while it may not turn into any of them beating Trump, I do think it's going to kind of mold future narratives that could have a more positive outcome for the Democratic Party. And I think that is sort of the most important part of this year. And I think also there's not a huge improvement, but some improvement with the Democratic Party. They, whenever there's a lot of candidates running against each other, they like to attack opposing candidates. And when it's time to kind of consolidate and support one, people have hurt each other's feelings and they just don't want to do it anymore. And so I think that will be a bit different this year. And I think after what happened with the next election, people are going to be more willing to throw their support behind maybe not their first choice candidate. And I definitely think we're already seeing steps in the right direction. It may not be big enough this upcoming election cycle, but I do believe there are improvements. And I am partial to my girl Lizzie Warren. I like her a lot.
But you're calling it Lizzie.
That
is so sexist.
Did you go see her?
No.
Did you go see her?
You called Uncle Joe.
Very different. You can't call Lizzie Elizabeth Warren Lizzie.
I mean, wasn't she in Austin just the other night?
She always has a plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Warren and Sanders could share a ticket. Whichever one wants to take the front seat, back seat kind of.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because if you notice the last debate with both of them, they didn't attack each other at all.
Yeah, no.
They made sure not. They were very proactive about not doing that, and everyone kind of attacked them, and so they definitely established themselves as the candidates to beat by doing that. And I thought that was very interesting and refreshing to see that kind of the two front runners were not going after each other.
Actually, interesting enough, they kind of usually, as the debate goes on, they keep track of attacks on who, and they kind of charted out. They basically had like headshots of candidates, and they drew lines like to who they're going after. The only person to not attack or to get hit was Andrew Yang.
Yeah,
because he's so on his message. I mean, and I've listened. I first, one of my friends, because I was like, oh, he's a long shot, because he was the first one to announce. It's like, oh, I'm sure he doesn't even have a chance. He's here for the rest of the debates at least now. And I listened to him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and that's kind of what like turned me into a believer in it, because he just talked about and Joe Biden's adopting his message, which kind of upsets me and a lot of the other Yang Gang people, because he's basically trying to steal his thunder. Essentially what Yang is saying is we're on the brink of the next industrial revolution because of technology. And because he's talking about how Tesla is developing self-driving semi-trucks. And trucking is the most popular profession in 17 different states. And so with that, of course, you're still going to need people to drive semi-trucks like around cities, around the mountains, or like on the coast where the roads are really complicated and you have a lot of weird infrastructure. But in areas from like Idaho to South Dakota, what is there? In terms of roads, it's a 2-lane road, going east and west. And that's it. And you can have, especially in the next decade, you're going to have self-driving trucks doing that. You're going to be displacing a lot of people. And also the same businesses that go along the highways, those diners and those motels that absolutely rely on truckers stopping there as part of their bottom line, they're going to go under too. And so what he's arguing with that is automation's coming for that. And also the other, across the entire nation, the most popular profession is a sales clerk. And it usually looks like a woman in her late 20s, early 30s, who's making anywhere from $8 to $10 an hour. And the problem is, and we're not going to be having robot clerks take over Macy's, but what we have and what's been going on is every year Amazon's been closing 30% of every single business. especially malls. The Amazon has been destroying malls across the country, and so we're having less of demand for people to physically go into the store. People are still buying from Amazon and Walmart, but especially for Amazon, interesting enough, they pulled in, I think, over billions of dollars last year, and they paid $0 in taxes. And so basically what Yang proposes is to help pay for the $1,000 a month he's promising people. And mainly because of that is because he's saying that we're already so behind on transitioning for the new economy that we're going to have a mass displacement of a lot of people. Like truckers are usually in their 40s or 50s. They're not going to go back to school and learn how to code. Mm-hmm. So at least $1,000 a month can help supplement them while they're trying to find new work. And the value added tax goes on to every robot truck mile, everything that Amazon does in a way to on the front end, because Amazon basically works tax loopholes to get around. So basically on the front end to make them pay taxes up front before the yearly thing comes through. They help at least supplement that. I think the other part of it is with the universal basic income, you can either opt out of like welfare programs to get the $1,000, or you can keep it if you want to stay on like food stamps or your whatever income you're allotted. You can do that, but you can also join the $1,000 a month club. So with people coming off of that and those social programs, it's also going to free up a lot of money. Not to mention, and he doesn't talk about this, but I think it's worth mentioning that we spend over half of our budget on military, and I'm not saying military is very important, but to maybe take a cut of that and to put it in.
Very important, and we're spending $720 billion on it a year. And you think about military budgets for other developed countries that's next to us, no one's near us. I think the most is about 150.
Russia's the next. Russia and China combined still don't even come to ours. And so I'm like, what if we just took like a tenth of that and put it into either education or even like the freedom dividend, or mental health is something that's incredibly important, especially as a psych major to me. I mean, you look at the statistics, and I'm thinking about writing about it for a thesis for honors college, but suicide has overtaken car accidents for leading cause of death in America. From either if you count opioid overdoses into suicide, then it absolutely overtakes it. And so I mean, it's a very silent epidemic too. It's not. Of course, with gun violence and everything too, especially with the rise of mass shootings, but you can argue that in itself is also part of a mental health crisis going on throughout the country. I mean, in no way is it sympathetic to those who, decide to do those heinous acts, but in a lot of ways you could see that some of these mass shootings are very just public violent suicides just through anger in a lot of ways. And of course it's worth mentioning, and it's, something that's really talked about, is the demographic of mass shooters is typically almost always the same. And it's worth looking into why it's always the same, because you don't see a lot of women or, people of color doing mass shootings. It's usually white kids in their teens, white males in their teens. And so I don't know if it has to do with just frustrations that aren't voiced or whatever it is, but obviously it's something important. Of course, I kind of wanted to finally get your take on this, because this is something my friends and I were talking about last night. Of course, the White House finally took action against this incredible epidemic sweeping through the nation called teen vaping and mango-flavored Juul pods. I love that, because 6 people have died from vaping since it's really become popular. And 6 people is what it takes to get the executive branch of the United States to move on a unilateral ban across the board.
I think about when Tucker had this conversation with him. Come and take it. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the federal government to be overly intrusive in the lives of American citizens. If people want to vape, let them vape. Yeah. I mean, there's some benefit in controlling who's vaping and who's not vaping, but you can't over-police the action of Americans and adults, right? If that's something they know. What you can do is you can communicate the risk. Yeah. But banning vaping nationwide is not going to... Yeah. And I don't even know if it's within the executive power. I mean, he I don't want to get on the high horse about this administration, but...
I mean, and the thing, too, is funny enough that I agree with a quote from Stalin, of all people, the other night on Twitter. Basically, he said that one death is a tragedy, but 1,000 becomes a statistic. Because we start to become so desensitized to it. Because if you look at how many people have died from gun violence just this year alone, I mean, it's astronomical compared to vaping, but we just become so desensitized because it's just become regular. And I mean, it's we could do an entire 5-hour episode about gun culture in America that I don't want to even dig into, but that kind of same sense of taking away the guns is a way to fix it. I don't necessarily agree with, but what has shown results in a lot of states is a gun licensing program. And for a lot of like my very, very pro-gun friends, I mentioned to them, and it seems to make sense, and I agree with it. Basically, if you need a license to drive a car, right? Why don't you need a license to really own a firearm? And I think, it's goes into things like how to responsibly store a firearm, how to use it, how to operate it properly, and different rules and stuff like that, which I think is incredibly important.
Very important. I don't think it's going to stop mass shootings.
No, I don't think so either.
I think that we have to be very clear about these mass shootings and about how we deal with mental health is one thing, and it's not just mental health. I know that we'd like to blame it on everything except for mental health.
Yeah.
Everything except for what it is.
People like to give these things a one solution. It's such a combination.
It is a combination of two, but I also think that I'm a big proponent of the Second Amendment, but I'm also a proponent of being safe when we're talking about the Second Amendment, and there are some safe things that we can do, and I don't think that ordinary citizens have any reason for assault rifles.
Yeah. I don't either. I think most
for high capacity magazines.
Most Americans agree with universal background checks, but it's still something that's completely, to the Republican Party is something so outlandish.
That's big money.
It's NRA money, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Power of lobbying.
It is really the power of lobbying, and it I don't know, because it's this overwhelming feeling of just kind of dread that kind of comes about too, even with climate issues, where that's like where you can see in the public there is such a concern about a lot of these things, but it's just the inactivity of Washington usually that really just kind of creates that really bad sense. Because especially funny enough, I was reading an article about kind of psychologists just around the world kind of reporting new things that come up in therapy sessions, just general trends they see. And with a lot of young people, it's a lot of anxiety and dread about the climate. Because, we've been told from a young age the planet's not in great shape, and just every day we see it get worse, and the same people who pollute it aren't going to have to, clean up the mess they've made. It's going to be our burden to bear. And, every day the predictions get grimmer, and I don't want to bring it up, but, it all contributes to just, I think, kind of all goes back onto mental health, even with money and wages. Talk about that, too, because most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and what that does to your, mindset going forward. It's hard to think about the future. We can hardly, keep food on the table this month. Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to sometimes feel optimistic. And I think that's, something I know Andrew Yang talks about it, and even Marianne Williamson, to her credit, she talked a lot about the psychology of what's going on in the country right now. And it's something worth definitely looking into. Yeah. Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap things up here?
No, I think we said it all.
I should really quickly remind students when Diversity Week is.
Diversity Week is going to be October the 25th through November the 2nd.
All right. Awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming on and bearing with me through the audio difficulties.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. It was a really great time having you guys on.
Thank you so much. Follow Texas State Student Government.
And follow the San Mo Show on Twitter if you want San more. And I will see you guys in the next one.